Welcome everyone to the Mindfulness in Education Summit. I'm really thrilled to introduce our next guest, Eline Snell. She is a Dutch compassion and MBSR trainer who's done wonderful work around the world with adults and children. But in 2006, she developed a specific method for teaching mindfulness to children, which is now taught all over the world, from Hong Kong to Turkey to Latin America and other places. And many of you will know her from her book, Sitting Still Like a Frog, which is one of the most loved children's books related to mindfulness. That has been published in 36 countries and 28 languages. She's also the author of Breathe Through This, and most recently has a book, the Sitting Still Workbook for Children. So she also runs courses for teachers to be trained, and we'll have all the links to her books and courses and everything in her speaker bio. So welcome, Eline, and thank you so much for joining us.
Well, thank you so much for inviting me. It's a real pleasure and honor to be with you. Thanks, you.
Eline. So first of all, tell us how you became interested in the field of mindfulness. How did it start?
Well, for myself, it started at a real young age. I was 10 when I was interested in the working of the mind, when I was in a hospital as a child myself. And later on, it started with my daughter when she was in the age of 6. She had a lot of trouble in school to concentrate and to focus. So she came home regularly, very frustrated, and saying, well, all the teachers are asking me to concentrate and to focus more, but I don't know what it is, and I don't know how to do it. So at that time, I went to school, to her school, to the teacher, and asked the teacher, how do you teach children to focus and to pay attention? And the teacher was a little bit shocked and said to me, well, in fact, we don't teach them, we just say it.
Right.
And that was the first time that I realized how necessary it is for kids to know how to use their attention muscle. And that was also the start that I made some small exercises and small meditations daily to practice with my daughter when she was 6. Wow. And later on, because I'm training mindfulness education in schools for a longer time, when I was training 12 principals of schools in the MBSR, the classical MBSR of John Kabat-Zinn, they said to me, well, this is so beneficial for us. Can you develop something for children? But because we don't have it for children here in Holland. And that was the start of developing the training for children in a real MBSR method. And it method.
Yeah, that's wonderful, a wonderful progression, and that the principals could see that, you know, this would help children as well. I think more and more people are seeing it help themselves and then think, oh, we need to help kids to learn these skills as well, aren't we? So you always say mindfulness is the heart of education. Can you just expand on that a bit?
Yes, well, the heart of education is learning. Schools and other educational systems are, since the Middle Ages, focused on developing cognitive skills and how to use this in the outer world. But they don't teach children how to be more aware of their inner world and how to use and to influence all the things that happens in the inner world, like feelings, sometimes very strong feelings, thoughts, body signals. So we can say that we don't know what knowledge children will need in the next year, the next 5 years, 20 years. But we do know that they will need how to pay attention. and how to be more aware of their inner world. Because, well, I'm convinced that to be more successful in the outer world and to have pleasure in learning, you have to know something about your inner world. And here is the moment that mindfulness comes in, where children can learn how to pay attention, how to be more present, and how to be in a more wise relationship with themselves and others. So, and I experienced also that, and many with me, including you yourself, that all over the world, schools have the same problems with children. Children suffer from lack of concentration. They suffer from stress, from bullying. Children have a very low self-esteem, fear of failure. And despite of all kinds of social, emotional learning programs, the problems do not seem to be solved. So mindfulness can be really the heart of learning in every educational system, I think.
Yeah, that's really beautiful, and I agree with you 100% that that's the direction we really need to go, and to make such a difference in kids' lives. So when you developed your program, you created 4 training manuals for children to be used in class, for teachers to use in class with kids. So tell us about those, and why are there 4? Is there a special reason that you picked 4?
Yes. When I started to learn from the children in schools how to use the right language for them to understand what mindfulness means and what it really is, I started in the age group of 8 till 12, and find out the right language, the playful way, the shortness or the duration of the meditations. And then, this was very helping and supporting for them. Then the other teachers came to me and asked, can you do it also, can you develop it also for our little children, age 4, 5, 6, 7? And then I needed a whole different approach because it had to be more about stories, about little figures like the frog and Fifi the fly and birds that were in the story, and shorter meditations to start with. So then I developed another training manual for teachers to support their children. And then the teenagers came, and I needed another approach. And then the young professionals came, and another approach was needed. So it's really developed by doing it and by practicing it with the children and the teenagers.
Right, that's great.
It's very aged, developed.
Yeah, great. So lots of people get confused about what's the difference between meditation and mindfulness when we're talking about using it in schools. So can you just tell us a little bit about what those 2 terms mean?
Yes, well, I can imagine that as well as meditation, the meditation in itself by practicing it, and a mindfulness method can support both. But the difference is that mindfulness as a method, it's an educational approach. It's not only about meditation, it's also about reflection, it's also about compassion, it's also about learning more to have some insights about your feelings and the speed of the thoughts. So meditation is a part of the mindfulness program, and it's a very important part. but mindfulness has a little bit more to offer than only meditation. And I think this is the difference.
Great, thank you. And when did schools, kind of start to be interested in bringing this to help children, and what did that process look like? What are they actually doing in the schools to bring in mindfulness?
Yes, this is a very interesting question because a lot of people ask, how can we implement it in school?
Yeah.
And I think I'm really convinced that mindfulness always starts with yourself. So everybody who wants to offer mindfulness to children needs to have experience themselves, a mindfulness course. So this is one of the things the Academy for Mindful Teaching is asking from teachers to do an MBSR course for themselves. And then most of the time it starts with one pioneer, one teacher that is meditating her or himself for a longer time and are very enthusiastic to start with it themselves. So one teacher is coming to do the professional training. And then most of the time it takes a year, sometimes 2 years, to find out how it works in the class. And they really love to teach it. And because they love to teach it and they practice themselves, they embody completely the mindfulness message they want to offer to children. And that's the point that other teachers see the benefits. So they come into the class of this mindful teacher and see how the kids are practicing. And then they start to be interested too. So it's not a top-down situation. It's really a bottom-up situation. It's about being interested, feeling from inside the need and the urge to teach this to children and to start with themselves. And then some boards are getting interested, and start to talk with the principals and the directors of schools, and then it starts to flow. So then we get a situation that whole schools are getting the lessons, the mindfulness lessons, 750 kids throughout the year, every day.
Yeah, amazing.
Yes, yeah, but it's a long process. It's a kind of organic process, and I think this is the best way to not ask from teachers that they have to teach mindfulness in the curriculum, but do it the other way around. So that they can
I totally agree, like with the teachers having their own practice.
Yes.
You said before, you see the benefit yourself, and then you want to share. And of course, children look and watch everything we do, so if they see us just, being mindful and embodying that, of course,
we are the role models.
Rub off on them, isn't it? So, yeah. So, can you tell us some of the benefits that children show when they're doing the mindfulness practices in schools, and maybe some of the things that don't go so well?
Yes, well, like with adults who never meditated in their lives before, for children it can be strange in the first place. They are curious. Sometimes adults say, well, kids don't need it because they are mindful themselves. But this is not completely true. Kids can be very present and pay attention to one object very well, but they are not aware of it. Right. So the awareness is missing. And this is what is very very important to, when you teach children mindfulness, you teach them something about awareness. And this is one of the benefits immediately, that after lesson 3 or 4 of the 8-week program, they start to be aware when they have feelings of anger, for example, or feelings of fear. and that they can notice where it is in their body, and that they don't need to respond immediately. So one of the strongest benefits is that kids are becoming less reactive to themselves and to others. Another strong benefit is that they become more kindly to themselves and to others, because compassion is, in the frog method at least, a very clear part. It's, 2 whole lessons are about compassion and self-compassion. So what happens in schools is that the learning atmosphere is changing, as well as in the class as on the playground. Kids are not longer excluded so much. They include each other while playing. They are more kind to each other. So that's one of the benefits too. And what is measured already in a lot of schools is that when your mind is unstressed, you're better capable to learn. So the learning is going better. They achieve better, while this is not a goal. But it's going by itself, and they really love to meditate after a while. So when they hear the bell, they start to sit properly. They close their eyes, and they just start, sometimes every day, every start of the day. And when they start meditating every start of the day, they become calmer, they become less restless. And all the things they bring from home, in a lot of countries, there's a lot of violence at home. In a lot of countries, there's a lot of stress. And kids bring it into their class. And when they start every day with a very short mindfulness exercise, they leave everything behind and they start to calm down themselves. And then they are present present at that time.
Yeah. I know it makes such a difference in the classrooms I've seen as well, just to have that peaceful moment or that grounding moment, before you start, and for kids, older kids, before they do tests and things, just being able to take a breath and center themselves and kind of release that. What do you say to parents or teachers who might be worried that when children are like tuning in, that they're going to relive some kind of traumas that they've experienced, or have some kind of bad experience with the meditation or mindfulness process?
Yeah, sometimes we hear parents or teachers with this worry that kids will come too close to a certain trauma that's unhealed. But kids are so incredibly resilient in a way that it's the other way around. We have a lot of experience with a lot of children. And an example is that a little girl in the age of 8 was going through a divorce of her parents. Her mother has to move to another city. And she was a kind of caring girl, very much caring about her mother and not caring about herself. So she was developing seizures and nightmares. He went to the hospital, of course, to find out if this has a medical source, but it seems not to have a medical source. And she was doing her first mindfulness class with a mindfulness teacher. And during the lesson of feelings you can feel, she started to cry. For the first time during that school year. She didn't talk about anything. She just started to cry. A little neighbor boy was putting her arm around her shoulders and said, I'm so happy that you are expressing your emotions. And then the teacher asked her, do you need something from me? And then she only asked for a glass of water. And the teacher asked, do you need something else? And she said, no, it's okay. And only by being in this lesson and feeling allowed that she could feel her feelings into the body, and that it was okay to share her tears, the seizures were gone and the nightmares were gone without even talking about it. So children have a very own way to deal with very, very difficult situations. And we never experienced that kids were suffering more when they are practicing mindfulness. It's the other way around. They find a way out. They find a way to deal with the stressful situations in their lives. And this is so touching. And this is, in a way, also the difficulty with measuring the benefits of mindfulness, because these things you cannot measure. They have their own lives, and it will come out when the right moment is there. Yeah.
So yeah, that's a wonderful story, and just goes to show how helpful it can be to so many children. So what can you tell us a bit about the research, like how you're doing research with your program?
Yes. In a lot of countries has research been done. For example, in the Hong Kong City University with Professor Herman Low. He did for 2 years research with young children with ADHD in the age group of 5-6 with their parents. And the research shows that a lot of benefits were coming out. The outcome was very positive, that there were less mood swings with the kids, that the parents were acting and behaving less stressful. They could more take this breathing pause instead of reacting immediately. And what also was interesting was that the kids were more aware of their restless body, because a lot of kids don't realize that their bodies are jumping and moving around all the time. But when you ask them to be more aware of their moving bodies, then they start to be aware of it. So this was a very successful research. In Holland, we did some research too. With it happened in 2012 with kids with ADHD, my program, and kids with autism, and more or less the same outcome was there. So less mood swings, a better feeling of general well-being, and less reactivity when situations became stressful. And also another way of experiencing their diagnosis. So in a way that they didn't feel any longer having a stigma, but just could be aware of, well, my head is sometimes a little bit stormy, but I'm not an autistic or an ADHD child.
More acceptance and awareness. Yeah, I think that's so important, isn't it? To like kids get labeled quite easily nowadays, and that's just one part of them, isn't it? And I think that would be really, really helpful. Wow, so sounds like there's quite a lot of research going on, which is great, because that then encourages other schools to adopt these programs.
Yes,
Yeah.
and also my program is not only for schools, it's also for hospitals and for mental health people who work with kids in mental health institutes.
Okay.
So, there's also a research going on right now for young kids with really all kind of behavior problems, and young adults, so the young professionals with psychosis. So this is, but it is not completed, but it's going on. It's also very interesting. Yeah, in the medical university in Utrecht.
In Holland, is it? In the Netherlands? Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. And tell us a little bit about your, I know you are very a big proponent of including like the teachers, the parents, and the children. So having this triangle of activity going on to increase the mindfulness in the whole school, the child, the family. So tell us a bit about that.
Yes. Well, when I started with the kids, for example, in a school, then it's a school activity. So the parents are not so very much involved, but some questions from parents came during the years when they found out that their kids benefit so much by doing this training. So they came and asked us, can you develop something for children? In the first place, I wrote a book, Sitting Still Like a Frog, for the parents, but they needed more. So now there is a training for parents and teachers, and they can do it together in school, but also in the private practice. And it helps children a lot when the teachers and the parent, so the whole surrounding of the child's life, is understanding and practicing themselves and understanding what they are doing. But it's not really necessary. That is also what we discovered. Kids can do it very well alone, in a way. But I think it's obvious that when parents are practicing mindfulness at home and they are a mindful parent, that it benefits always every kid. And for the teachers, it's the same way. They are better capable to listen, to really see their kids, to really listen to them, to feel them, instead of just teaching them.
Yeah, beautiful. When it all comes together with all the different people in a child's life. So tell us a bit more about we have mostly teachers watching here. What kind of training courses do you offer that might be useful for teachers who want to develop more skills in this area? Are they online, in person, or just tell us some more details about that?
Like we said before, and we spoke about this before, it's necessary, in my opinion, to start with yourself. So teachers, when they want to teach children mindfulness, they have to do an own mindfulness education themselves, and they can do this online. That's no problem in their own country, in their own city. But then when they want to be a professional trainer, they have to do it in person. And they can do it in all kinds of countries. And they can also do it in the summer school in Holland. I'm always doing an international summer course in Holland in August. And teachers from all over the world, and psychologists and psychiatrists too, come from all over the world to join the professional training. It's a training of 6 days, of 7 hours. And after this, they have to do a pilot in their own school, in their own country, and write an essay about it. And when they wrote this essay about their own learning process, the things they learned from the children, they learned about themselves during this pilot. Then when the essay is well done, then they will be a certified mindfulness trainer in the frog method.
Right.
So yes, it's because mindfulness is not just a skill like other things you learn in schools. It's you have to implement it in your life. You have to embody it, so that kids really feel that you are mindful instead of doing something.
Exactly. Yeah, definitely. I really agree with that. So tell us about the frog. What's the metaphor with the frog?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is a funny story because when I was developing the training with the kids in the different classes, I felt the necessity to find a metaphor of meditation and mindfulness, and I didn't have one. So my husband every morning asked, Eline, do you have your metaphor yet? And every morning for 3 or 4 months I said, no, I don't have. And the 4th month he asked me again, and then I said, yes. I woke up and said, the metaphor must be a frog.
Right.
Why a frog? I also had a dream about this. A frog really represents all the aspects of mindfulness, so that we don't need to go into a theory with the kids, but just ask them to look at a frog. What do you see when you look at a frog? You can see that he sits very still, sometimes for hours. They don't need to do that, but sometimes for hours. But he can also make enormous jumps, like our mind can make enormous jumps. You can sit with your body in the class and with your mind with the party of your boyfriend or girlfriend you had yesterday, or with the worries about the test. So he can also make enormous jumps. And the beautiful thing about a frog is that he is not sitting like a kind of zombie.
Right.
He is aware of his breathing, and you can see the breathing very well in the belly. But he is also aware of the outer world. He can hear everything. When a fly is coming by, he will pick it with his tongue when he's hungry. So he's not only in his inner world, he's also aware of the outer world. And then there is this beautiful story about the princess and the golden ball. Maybe you know this fairy tale, that the princess throws her ball by accident in a little pond, and then the frog catches it. And he said, when you want to have your ball back, you have to kiss me. And this is, to make a very long story short, this is what we have to do when we want to go on with practicing mindfulness. We have to kiss the frog. We have to do something we don't like to do always. Yeah. And when you do this, there will become a transformation. Because when she kisses the frog becomes a prince. And this is what's happening inside too. So this, yeah. And then when I had this metaphor, like the frog, then I came after a while, after a beautiful old, I think it's the oldest haiku about a frog. One of the oldest haikus is about a frog.
Right.
A frog is jumping into the lake and everything is changed. There are different layouts of this very old haiku, but it's beautiful.
Right. Yeah, lovely. Yeah, and something that can really resonate with children. They love to live with animals and
Yeah.
make
And
more sense for
even,
them. Yeah.
yeah, even the little ones, when they have a frog puppet in the class, they immediately know what they are going to do. When the frog is there, we are starting with a meditation. So it's also very easy to connect with.
Yeah, beautiful. Yeah, I just wanted to mention as well that Eline has a app now out on Air France called Flying Frogs. So kids can practice mindfulness and meditation while they're flying, which I think is really something pretty amazing, because we know lots of kids have some anxiety maybe about flying, and also they have nothing to do on the plane sometimes, so it's a good time for them to learn these skills and practice. So that's pretty amazing as well. I think Air France flies pretty much everywhere in the world nowadays, don't they? So that's great. So I just want to say thank you again for joining us. It was so interesting, and you've done amazing work, and I can't wait to learn more about your courses and things that you're doing. We'll put all the links up for our viewers so they can contact you or get your books or learn about your teacher training courses as well. And if you fly Air France, look out for that app as well. So thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you so much for this very warm meeting, and wish you too all the luck with all the children you are teaching. And I hope we can stay connected in a way.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Bye.